Pam. Today I'm going to be talking about a brand new study that was published this year, just a couple of months ago, talking about how specific microbes in the gut actually cause or are increasing the progression of multiple sclerosis. So that it's a wonderful long-term study, at least 2 years old, the study was done over 2 years, and it shows some incredible insights as to why most people that are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and start off with relapsing remitting MS, why that MS turns into progressive MS. And it's really linked to the microbes in the gut. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. I was diagnosed over 35 years ago by now, and with MS, and I've been able to live MS free because I learned about the MS infection connection. And we did not know what we know today, but it has been life-changing for me, life-changing for many wellness champions, for us to be able to treat the root cause. And so this research that I'm going to share with you today really helps us to understand what is driving the progression in multiple sclerosis. The study was published in April of 2025 this year, and the title of the study is called Gut Microbiota and Metabolites Are Linked to Disease Progression in Multiple Sclerosis. So it's not just the actual microbes, the disease causing, they're parasites too, but it is also the poisons, the metabolites that they produce that are really impacting how MS is progressing. And I'm going to try to simplify the science for you to help you to understand and appreciate the significance of this study. So it's important to understand that there are many, many studies that have been linking the gut microbiome to multiple sclerosis and with MS, dysbiosis. And so this is nothing new. This is not just a one-off study. This one study, they actually identified at least 12 other studies that were showing disruptions in the microbiome in multiple sclerosis patients. And so in this study, they're showing how microbes and the chemicals they produce, they're called metabolites, how they play an active role or a central role in the progression of multiple sclerosis. This study was done over 2 years, following people with MS for over 2 years, and found that the people that had worse MS, that they were more disabled, they progressed, they were missing key beneficial gut microbes and the healing molecules or compounds that they make. So what did this study find? Well, number one, gut microbes predict multiple sclerosis progression. Isn't that interesting? It's not in the central nervous system, it's in the gut. So people who worsen, they had fewer of certain microbes. So you'll be able to look at my notes. I'm going to create a blog post, and that will be published in a few days on our website, livediseasefree.com. Please share that with your practitioner, share that with chiropractors, massage therapists, anyone who you work with, because we have to, even different groups that are MS groups, make sure to share this research because it's helping everybody to understand that what we're dealing with is infections, that there is a known cause, and this research really helps us to understand. It's fairly complex, and that's why you can't just treat one microbe and end up recovering from multiple sclerosis, but we're going to talk about how this all interplays with what we know, what we have learned over the years. So, all right, so number one, with these certain bacteria, I'm not even going to, actually, I'll try to say the names of them. The names are kind of complicated. So the Eubacterium, the butyric coccosis, and then Blottia. So those are different beneficial microbes that are supposed to live in our digestive tract, and they produce anti-inflammatory compounds, some of which are called short chain fatty acids that protect the brain and the nervous system. there are certain harmful microbes that get out of balance, and they're found in higher amounts in people that have multiple sclerosis. I'll try to pronounce it properly, but it's Ellipses and Bacteroides. So those would be two common that were found in higher numbers in people that progressed more with multiple sclerosis. So people with multiple sclerosis, they are missing certain microbial metabolites. So people that were diagnosed with MS and they worsened, they found that, so both of these protective substances that should be present inside of us when we have health promoting microbes, they were decreased. They were just not only in the stool, but also in blood in MS patients. So people that progressed with multiple sclerosis, they had more, or they had less short chain fatty acids. They had less secondary bile acids. They had less vitamins of certain kinds, like especially B vitamins. They had decreased sphingolipids, which are really important for brain structure and myelin. So these points, they really show that like all of these were decreased in people that had multiple sclerosis, and they progressed a lot more over those 2 years. So these would be protective substances that a healthy microbiome would have, and those of us that are progressing, we would have less of this, so that would cause more inflammation inside of us. So these changes were not only linked to more disability, but they were also, the gut microbes and the metabolites also correlated with MRI markers of brain damage, which is huge. So smaller brain volume. So they also found a smaller brain volume and more lesions were linked to the loss of beneficial microbes. So again, beneficial microbes in the gut were linked to smaller brain volumes and increased lesions. All right, and then also cognitive decline. So poor performance on memory and processing speed tests were associated with harmful microbes. So the more harmful of these microbes that the MS patients had, they noticed that their performance, their memory performance and processing speed tests were less than people that had not progressed. And this was all linked to the microbes living in their body, not to their immune system attacking their brain. Worsening of quality of life. So participants with less or fewer of these protective microbes in their gut, they had more trouble with movement, mobility, and also social engagement and daily function. So this is really, really huge, right? Showing how microbes that live in our gut impact our brain size, impact our function, our cognitive function, even our social, our interest and ability to interact socially, really huge. So why does this matter so much? Because this is the first long-term study that connects specific gut bacteria and the metabolites they produce to the progression of multiple sclerosis. So this really relates to clinical symptoms, brain scans. We're looking at, remember, smaller brains and lesions, disability scores, mental function, which is the cognitive function, and how people feel, their quality of life, right? This is the big thing, is that we want a cure. We want to, well, I don't know about a cure, I call it recovery. We want to recover. We don't want to live with the horrible, horrible disability that comes with multiple sclerosis. So the results from this study, which again was a well-done study over 2 years, longer term, it is consistent with the findings of many, many other studies that really show that there is a disruption in the microbiome in multiple sclerosis. And I've shared a lot of different studies with you and research about how, you know, for people that have MS, they've had gut issues for 5 years before their diagnosis. And we've talked about many different infections, parasitic infections that become an issue with MS. I've shared tons of pictures of the worms that our students have passed. And that really brings us to the next step in understanding, like, why do people have like with multiple sclerosis, why do we have such a disruption in these microbes? There are lots of other people that have been on antibiotics, right? And they don't have MS, and we've been on antibiotics maybe too often, and sure, there's an increased risk of disease going on, a lot of antibiotics, but what makes us so different? Like, why do we have such, because a lot of us that, we're dealing with MS, we're eating right, we're trying to exercise the best we can, we're taking nutritional supplements, many of us are taking probiotics, so why do we have such a disruption to our microbiome? Before we get to that important point, but let's just talk about which microbes were beneficial. So people who were more stable, they had multiple sclerosis, but their health did not decline, they had more of the following gut bacteria. Now I'm going to try to pronounce them there. It's all Latin names, really complicated, but you can actually see the names in the study. So Eubacterium is one, and Butyric coccus or coccus. And then a third one is Blatia. A fourth one is a type of Streptococcus thermophilus. And then the last one is Peptostreptococcaceae. So those are like 5 beneficial microbes that they found were greatly decreased in people that progressed with their MS, more so than the other ones that did not progress over the course of the 2 years of the study. So we know in science that with these particular microbes that they produce a lot of anti-inflammatory substances. They really help to regulate or modulate the immune function, and they support the gut-brain connection. I've talked about the gut-brain axis, how things that happen in the gut really impact our brain. So that is really important to know that we have less of these health-promoting microbes, the substances they produce to help modulate our immune system, and then we end up with more of a pro-inflammatory state, and then we will progress from relapsing, remitting multiple sclerosis over to the MS that is progressive multiple sclerosis. And then the people that worsened, they had higher levels of the stripes, and then bacteroides, and then the Phocaceola. So those are 3 different species that were much higher in the people that had MS that progressed more over the 2 years in the study. And those microbes, their bacteria, they are linked with more inflammation, so they are like pro-inflammatory bacteria. They're also linked with neurodegeneration, neurodegenerative diseases, even cancer and depression. So very interesting. So metabolic findings, so people with progressive multiple sclerosis had lower levels of certain B vitamins and the sphingomyelin, which is really important for myelin repair, and then also a precursor to heme for oxygen transport, and also beneficial bile salts. So this is quite complicated, how our body is so amazing, and how even the types of microbes that live in our body, they will definitely suppress and keep under control different types of parasites, but they also make really important substances for our immune system to be like regulated properly and not to be so pro-inflammatory. So instead, these people that in the study that progressed more quickly with MS, they had more of these 2 substances, palmitoylate and then also P-cresol sulfate. Those are 2 compounds that were really linked with increased progression. So the second one is a toxic compound that mimics myelin, and it can worsen autoimmune attacks. The first one is a lipid linked with inflammation. So the study mapped out which microbes produced the metabolites, and I talked about those already. And so when these microbes were missing, the health-promoting microbes, so were their healing compounds that they make, right? And so then we were not, those patients in that study that progressed more, they would be more prone to more inflammation and more progression of the disease. So the bottom line is the research clearly shows from this study and many other studies too that MS progression is linked to a loss of microbial diversity and a lack of beneficial metabolites that they produce. So the beneficial compounds that they produce. These changes really impact our immune function, also our brain structure, our brain size, our cognitive function, and hugely our quality of life. The findings offer testable targets for treatment. So, and this is really interesting that I'm talking about this subject, and I found this researcher who's been, like, I know that there's mitochondrial dysfunction with the functional medicine doctors, and they have a lot of supplements they recommend, but people that have used a lot of them haven't really noticed a big difference in their symptoms, where this other researcher, I was listening to some of his case studies of people that he's worked with, and although it's not a cure, he's not saying it's a cure, but with really specific supplements to help correct this change in the metabolites we're missing, to help immune modulation, but also to rectify the disruptions in our brain that these parasites are causing, that these microbes are causing, of course to treat them too, but to really help to support the body to heal. I think that's going to be a really important part that we're going to add to the Live Disease-Free plan. It may not be a lot of things, but it might be like one or two things that really help to heal the brain while we're treating the root cause. It's really important to use an integrative approach when we are recovering from chronic disease. So this brings us to the next point where, why is it that some of us, we've had too many antibiotics in the past, and yes, we might have MS or another chronic disease, but there's other people like in our family that were on antibiotics too, and they don't have a chronic disease like we do. So what's the difference? Like, why with multiple sclerosis, especially with the people that are becoming more disabled, like moving from relapsing remitting to progressive more quickly, what's the difference? Like, why do some progress more quickly and have a more disruption in these bacteria and others don't? Well, of course, environment plays a big part. It's like, are we getting enough sleep? Are we eating the right foods, right? Are we trying to balance our life, exercise? All of those things are really helpful. But we have to also consider that if we do have a large worm parasite infestation, that can really impact the other smaller microbes like the bacteria inside our body. And so what we have seen with people that have MS and other chronic diseases too is that the sicker we are, the more disability we have, the more infested we are with larger worms also. That would include roundworms, tapeworms, flukes. So it's one thing to help to correct the changes in the biochemistry, right, that these bad bacteria in our gut are causing, and to help support immune modulation and all of that. But if we don't treat the bigger ones, the bigger parasites, then we're going to have ongoing problems with the smaller ones. And that's what we see in the program. So in our Live Disease-Free program, we're helping people treat large to small, but to take a just quick look at how worms disrupt our gut microbes, different bacteria that should be health promoting and helping us to digest our food, making nutrients for us, also making those compounds I was talking about. Well, when we have a lot of worms, that really impacts inflammation. We end up with the immune system is not modulated. The immune system becomes very active, really trying to deal with these infections. So, and also worms can specifically suppress our immune function, and that can really benefit these disease-causing bacteria. Also, nutrient competition. So we know that bigger worms are going to definitely be bigger freeloaders. They're going to use a lot of our nutrients, making us deficient, and that can also impact the health-promoting microbes because they may not have as much nutrition as they need to be really abundant inside of us. Also, the bigger worms will cause damage to the lining of our gut, and that is going to cause perpetual inflammation, and that can definitely benefit these like it'll cause widespread inflammation, and that can benefit harmful bacteria. Mucus layer disruption. So the gut has this protective mucus coating, and that houses really important health promoting microbes and bacteria. And so when we have a lot of bigger worms, there can be a disruption to this protective layer, and it can really cause like a decrease in our health promoting microbes, and also can perpetuate the disease causing bacteria we talked about in this. Also, these worms can cause changes in our pH, so we can end up with all kinds of different like organic acids produced by bacteria, but also by worms. And so if you have organic acids, then your body's going to burn up a lot of minerals. So then you become deficient in minerals. So it can cause you to be more acidic too. And then also it can change oxygen levels. And some microbes like certain environments with no oxygen or some oxygen where it's present or it isn't present. So all of these bigger worms are definitely going to change the environment inside of our intestines, in our gut, even in a greater way than a small bacteria. Because just think about it. You can visually see a worm, and well, maybe not all of them, but many of them you can see. But you can't see bacteria. So bacteria are going to be very, very small. You have to use a microscope to see them. And so the larger worms, and then also another thing that I didn't even mention is that a lot of these larger parasites, they have their own worms, they have their own parasites inside of them. So they're depositing, the larger worms are depositing their waste in us, they're depositing their parasites in us. And so that can be another source of, the bad microbes, the bad bacteria. So I was talking with a lady today, and she is a nutritionist, and she was working in healthcare for years, and she was super active and just like doing a lot of really good things, a lot more than an average person like us would do before we get sick. Because we're like myself, when I was 28, I thought I was healthy. I didn't, I thought I ate right, and I was like one of 6 kids, and we were all healthy, and my parents were healthy. And then I got multiple sclerosis, and it's like, how is that possible? I was healthy, I was slim, I've never been sick in my life, like other than like the odd little flu. Same with this nutritionist. Like, she literally has had a beautiful active career in helping people, and then she gets diagnosed with MS, and she's trying all these integrative things to help her health, and diet and supplements, and trying to be active, and her health is declining, right? And so that is progressing, right? Multiple sclerosis progressing. So why would it be progressing when you're doing all the right things? Well, if you have a parasitic infestation of worms, then the other microbes, or the other bad bacteria, are going to be thriving, right? Because it's a terrible toxic environment when you have these worms. Especially, our students are passing hundreds of worms. It's not like 1 or 2. They're passing so many of them. So you can just imagine it's not a really good environment for these health promoting bacteria that would produce all these nice immune modulatory molecules for us, the different vitamins, they help digest our food. It's not a good environment for them to grow and thrive in, right? They're just not going to be able to give us the health that we need. So it's one thing to take this study, share it with your practitioners. Really, really important. Then also share it with MS groups, share it even with other people, because it's not just MS, right? It's, yes, with MS we have, maybe they're finding that these certain bacteria are out of balance, which is helpful for us to know. But for anybody whose health is declining, right, it is going to be less of the health promoting microbes that produce all these wonderful substances that make us healthy, and they're going to have more of the pathogenic bad bacteria and parasites that are taking away their health. I will take just a couple of minutes to answer some questions. Please type your questions in the question box. I have another appointment here right away that I have to go to, but we all would love to answer your questions, so make sure to type your questions in the question box. And I wanted to share too that I don't want to leave you hanging, that there is a solution. So if you have just found me for the first time, you can go to our YouTube channel, livediseasefree.com. I've got many, many videos there. You can go to, even better is go to our website, livediseasefree.com. You'll see that my blog is like articles that I've written, and it's the shorter versions of these videos. So you can go to that and you can just pick topics, and you're going to see pictures of the worms that our students are passing. You're going to find out a lot about like why you're sick, what's causing it, how we can recover. And then when you're at that place, and if you want to start following a diet that will give you tremendous symptom improvements, because the bacteria, these nasty bacteria that are pathogenic that I was talking about in the study that make us more progress with multiple sclerosis more quickly, they love carbohydrates. So when you decrease the carbohydrates in your diet and the simple sugars, they're going to be a lot quieter and you're going to feel a lot better, and that's going to really slow down your progression, but you still want to treat them. So when you get to the place where like, Pam, thank you for all of that information. You can watch my masterclass training where I share a lot of the common parasites that are involved with multiple sclerosis and other diseases. And then I also share like a lot of case studies of people that have recovered. And I also share the step-by-step live disease-free plan that we use to recover. So you can tackle that on your own. You can find a practitioner that will help you. But honestly, at this time, it's really hard to find practitioners that understand how to treat these infections effectively. If that's the case and you need support, make sure to watch my masterclass training, fill out the form, watch the coach-a-thon. You can book a time to chat with me after that if you feel that this is a right fit for you, if you need support, and you can join and you can become a wellness champion. And you can follow these steps. We have many students from all over the world that are right now recovering. Every week we have incredible successes, like life-changing, miraculous successes of people that are taking back their health and their life. So it is really important to treat the bad bacteria, but it is also important to treat the other parasites, the other microbes. So it is important to treat worms, protozoa, bacteria, and fungi that are all out of balance, all of the pathogenic bad parasites that are causing disease. I'll answer a couple of questions here. So RK9 family, you're here and you're just beginning to learn about this. It makes so much sense and it definitely is worth trying. You went to your MS support group today and you were so excited to share, but it wasn't well received. I know. So when I was first, things haven't changed a lot. When I was first diagnosed with MS, I went to the MS Society and it was really, really depressing. I love the people there, but they were having coffee and cookies and Nanaimo bars, and I'm like, but when I went to see them, I had already changed my diet, already had huge symptom improvements. They didn't want to hear it. That was like 35 years ago, mind you. But they were just like, man, if I had to give up my junk food, I would die. And I was just like, that's not for me. So like what you have to do is you just have to take care of yourself. You have to recover. You can just share. You will reach people. You will definitely reach some. But a lot of times in those groups, they're just like, they're really stuck in a way of thinking. Like my generation, like I'm in my 60s. And so when we would get like a cold or something, we just automatically went to our doctors and we thought our doctors would cure us and heal us. And we didn't really think much about our health. Just eat healthy, whatever that means. It's different for every person, and exercise. But then when you get sick and then you start going to the neurologist and the specialist and you're just like, wow, they can't really help me. And isn't it interesting, like with this study too, they're saying, like with multiple sclerosis, we start off with relapsing remitting and most people turn progressive multiple sclerosis in time. It's like, if the MS drugs work so well, why is MS progressing, right? Why, so maybe we should try something different if we have been using these immunosuppressive drugs for years and years and we're still progressing to from relapsing remitting to progressive multiple sclerosis, and we're still becoming disabled and ending up in wheelchairs and in care homes. Like maybe we need a different approach. Maybe we should start looking at this type of research. So if you share this with your, if you can just kind of throw it out there. And if your doctor's you can just say, hey, there's some new research. It looks really promising for MS, talking about the gut microbiome and multiple sclerosis, and just listen. And if they go, oh, there's nothing to that, that's just foolishness, then leave it. Don't subject yourself to any negativity. But if they're like, oh, well, that's interesting, and if they're somewhat neutral or positive, just say, can I send the link to your office and you can they may not look at it, but they might. But share it with integrative practitioners, share it with different groups. There will be somebody in the group that gets this information and they will be so grateful to you, because I have this all the time where people are, there's an MS, I can't remember what it's, the MS healing group, and the one lady found me in that group because they were talking about the work that we do. And so she's joining, and she'll be just taking her life back. And she has an incredible backstory of, she's going to be helping a lot of people. Let's put it that way, when she recovers. So I'm really excited. So you don't know whose life you're going to touch just by sharing the research, just by somebody going, oh, what? Bacteria, microbes? Most people that I talk to, they have never heard that infections could be involved with MS or parasites. They've never heard that. And this is like 35 years after I was diagnosed, when I first started to learn very simply about this. So I'm sorry that it was negative for you, but that is unfortunately where we are right now. A lot of people really believe in standard of care, and they would be really hurt if their practitioners, and I know the practitioners are doing the best they can with what they've learned, but it's an awful system. So Helen, you've done everything alternative over 25 years and things have gotten worse. You need to approach it from the parasite. Yes, you do. But please do me a favor and don't just go on forums and start, oh, this parasite drug, I'm not even going to say the name of it, and this other parasite drug. Everybody's doing these two parasite drugs, and I wonder if it's going to help me. The lady I spoke to today, she hadn't ordered one of them, but she was going to, and she's like, that's dumb, because what if I don't even need it? What if I use the wrong dose? What if I hurt myself? Don't wing it. You need somebody, a practitioner, or work with us to help you to build a plan tailored to you, where you can use herbs, oxygen therapies, and possibly parasite drugs to treat what you're dealing with. Unfortunately, there's not a one-size-fits-all treatment plan for multiple sclerosis, and it would be lovely if there was, because we could totally cure the world, but that's not the way it is. But you can recover if you use the right treatments for the parasites that you have, and you're supporting the body. You're so very welcome. Okay, one more here. I'll see. Hello, the Life Coach Medical Model. You highly recommend people join. If we are sick, we learn how to heal and to regain the vitality we lost and how to keep it. That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. She is a wellness champion, by the way. Helen, could ivermectin combat this? No. This is exactly what I'm trying to say, is that ivermectin is a parasite drug. It does not treat bacteria. It treats certain type. You can Google and you can look up what kind of parasites ivermectin treats, and it's only going to treat those. There's not a single person I've worked with that just uses ivermectin and recovers. It is one that is often included in 3 to 5 parasite drugs. It is not the main one. It is not the most helpful one. You will not recover. I wish, if you would, I would tell you, like, we could cure the world. Like, we could cure everyone with MS but we can't, because it's not the cure. You're not dealing. So for example, the bacteria are not going to be treated by ivermectin, right? And flukes won't be, and large roundworms won't, and tapeworms won't be, right? And so protozoa will not be treated by ivermectin either. It is helpful. It might be one of the side ones, but that's it. How do people get those bad bacteria in the gut? Why do some people have and others don't? I answered that question. So that's a really good question, though. Again, we talked about it's not just antibiotics, it's what other microbes are living in your gut, which parasites, what's living inside of them, what they're depositing in you, right? And 2, we are exposed to different good and bad microbes. But if your gut microbiome is really healthy, it's like a thick ecosystem that will protect your digestive tract and your whole body from parasites. But multifaceted antibiotics breaks down the good microbes, and then also when we have this toxic environment from the parasites also decreases the healthy microbes. So it's multifaceted. Okay, I said last one, but I'll just do this last one. So tall cedars. You're wondering if coffee lowers your good healthy microbes. You drank a lot of coffee over the decades. I don't think that it is coffee is acidic. If you have a lot of other parasites, you will be more acidic too. So it's not going to be helpful, but it's not a driver. There's a lot of people that drink a lot of coffee and they don't have MS or other chronic diseases. It's not a real healthy habit to have to drink a lot of coffee. Like 1 cup, if you're super healthy and you have 1 cup a day, especially if it's organic, it shouldn't be a problem. But it is a drug. It does definitely stimulate you. It does cause headaches when you quit taking it. I don't drink any coffee because I just gave up a lot of things, and I don't need it. I don't have the ups and downs. I don't even really like the taste of it. So, but could I have I probably wouldn't do a coffee just because I'm not used to the caffeine in it. It would probably make me feel like hyper, I would guess. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. Wonderful questions. Keep putting the questions in, and make sure that you get the support you need. If you like the research that I share with you, if you appreciate the tons of research that I do, go to our website, livediseasefree.com, to our blog posts, scan them. But please like, share, and subscribe this video. It does help it get out to people that are searching. That's how people find me. That's how we can make the change, how we can bring change to the world. Because this is not coming from our healthcare system, that is for sure. So again, if you're ready to treat, watch my masterclass training, see if the Live Disease Free plan is a good fit for you. The link to that will be above or below this video. Otherwise, start changing your diet. You'll find the Live Disease Free diet guidelines on our website. And have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.